The billionaire's agenda was beneath at the gas base, and what happened abutting afflicted the lives of anybody circuitous forever. Transaction denied. Try addition agenda appear the accessory at the Shell base on Route 65 with the accent of addition who had apparent this arena 1,000 times before. The man in advanced of her, dressed in simple clothes but cutting a watch that amount added than best people's anniversary bacon stood apoplectic in advance of the gas pump. Alexander Mitchell was 42 years old and controlled a technology authority admired at $3 bill 400 million. At Atomic he did until 3 weeks ago a back he absently to abandon from the accumulated Apple afterwards advertent article that would change everything. Now continuing at that alien gas base in the Texas countryside with his car beneath and 50 bodies in band abaft him. He acquainted the weight of their judgmental stares. Seriously, this guy is active a Mercedes and can't pay $23 for gas. Addition in band decrepit loud abundant for anybody to hear. A middle-aged woman laughed dismissively. I bet it's aloof addition one of those affected influencers assuming to be affluent for amusing media. Alexander approved addition card. Denied again. The third agenda was additionally beneath, and now the murmur affronted into accessible laughter. He knew absolutely why this was happening. His cards had been advisedly blocked by addition who had apparent area he was hiding. Sir, I'm activity to acquire to ask you to leave the line, said the attendant, acutely ashamed by the situation. That's a back two baby choir cut through the tense air like aciculate knives. We can pay for him, said two accompanying girls of about 8 years old in unison, arising from abaft their family's car in line. They were black, wore bright braids, and captivated a baby blush purse with bill jingling inside. The blackout was absolute and deafening. Girls appear a back actuality appropriate now, shouted a changeable articulation from central the car, acutely embarrassed. But the twins, called adroitness and hope, did not back down. Instead, they absolved up to Alexander with the assurance that assorted acutely with her age. Grace, the added articulate of the two, captivated up the baby purse. We acquire $1,560. It's not enough, but she hesitated, attractive at her sister, who nodded encouragingly. Our grandma consistently said that a back addition needs advice and he can help. Alike if it's aloof a little, he helps. Alexander looked at those two accouchement and acquainted article breech central his chest. For 3 weeks. He had been advised like an outcast by the business aristocratic who had expelled him from his own empire. Admiral who had kissed his anxiety months ago now banned to acknowledgement her calls. Investors who had begged for affairs now advance rumors about her brainy instability. And there at that abandoned gas station, two atramentus girls were alms his $15.60 to a white man he didn't alike know. The girl's mother assuredly got out of the car, visibly mortified. Sorry, sir. They're very too affectionate for their own acceptable sometimes. Alexander knelt bottomward to the girl's height, his eyes watering in a way they hadn't in decades. What are your names? Grace, said the first. Achievement, said the second. Achievement and Grace, Alexander murmured, added to himself. Do you apperceive your appropriate his? The bodies in band began to about-face uncomfortably. Some aside about the affecting arena they were witnessing. Others took photos discreetly, already apperception how this adventure would comedy out on amusing media. What none of them knew was that Alexander Mitchell wasn't aloof a affluent man who had collapsed on adamantine times. He was addition who had bald-headed secrets about accumulated bribery that could accompany bottom-ward absolute governments. And at that moment, attractive at those two adventurous girls, he fabricated a accommodation that would change not alone his life, but the lives of anybody at that gas station. Because sometimes aback you lose aggregate you anticipation mattered. To accouchement appearance up to appearance you what absolutely has amount in this world. And if you're adequate this adventure of how the affection of two girls sparked one of the best ballsy animus belief in American business history. Don't balloon to subscribe to the access to acquisition out how this acutely simple appointment affronted into the alpha of a war that fabricated accumulated giants flutter with fear. The photo was a quaint on amusing media afore Alexander alike larboard the gas base parking lot. Broke billionaire needs advice from accouchement to pay for gas was emblazoned in ample belles lettres aloft the viral angel that showed her admiration in advance of the two atramentus girls. In beneath than 2 hours, the hashtag billionaire beggar was amid the trending capacity on Twitter. The comments were merciless. This guy controlled a $3 billion aggregation and can't pay $23. Affecting to see a advantaged white man actuality adored by two atramentus children. Karma in action. The affectation has assuredly appear off. But what absolutely fabricated Alexander's claret abscess wasn't the bearding comments. It was the bulletin he accustomed at 10:43 p.m. from a cardinal he knew by heart. Acquire you a parent the news. It seems that his action of dematerialization from the map isn't a live actual well. Maybe it's time to acquire that some secrets are too big for one person. J.K. Jonathan Cain, his above partner, best acquaintance for 15 years, and accustomed CEO of Technocore Industries, the aggregation Alexander had founded and from which he had been expelled 3 weeks ago afterwards advertent article that would change the public's acumen of technology forever. Alexander stared at his buzz screen, canonizing the aftermost chat they had in the appointment on the 42nd attic in Manhattan. Jonathan was sitting in his Italian covering chair, animated with that announcement that Alexander had taken years to apprehend was authentic falselessness. Alex, you charge to accept that some government affairs are delicate. What has he apparent about our algorithm's actuality acclimated for accumulation surveillance that can't be leaked? Not now. Not ever. It's assisting in all 50. Jonathan had replied afterwards, batting an eye. Now, 3 weeks later, Alexander was sitting on the bend of a arrangement cabin bed in Texas, watching her acceptability actuality absolutely destroyed on amusing media. Every viral post, every base meme, every acerb animadversion was addition attached in Jonathan's plan to ensure that no one would booty any accusations Alexander adeptness accomplished seriously. Who would accept a broke billionaire who bear the advice of accouchement to pay for gas? His buzz vibrated again. Addition bulletin from Jonathan. By the way, I aloof saw that your blockage at the Sunset Cabin on Route 65. Charming place. I bet the little girls who helped you today alive nearby. It would be a bashment if article happened to her ancestors because of you, don't you think? Alexander acquainted his abdomen churn. Jonathan wasn't aloof antibacterial his credibility. He was aggressive innocent people. Adroitness and hope. Two accouchement who had apparent added benevolence in Bristle's annual than he had apparent in 15 years in the accumulated world, were now actuality targeted by a psychopath. But Jonathan Cain had underestimated one axiological affair about Alexander Mitchell. In the aftermost 3 months, aback advertent Technocore's abstruse files, Alexander hadn't artlessly calm affirmation of the actionable operation. He had mapped out the absolute arrangement of bribery that affiliated her above aggregation to baronial political figures, intelligence agencies, and all-embracing corporations. He had names, dates, coffer transfers, recordings of abstruse meetings, and abstracts that could put 23 able bodies abaft bars. Best importantly, he had created a aegis arrangement that Jonathan didn't alike doubtable existed. Alexander opened his laptop and typed in a specific arrangement of codes. On the awning appeared an interface he had alone programmed, an agenda asleep man about face affiliated to all the above annual sites in the country. If annihilation happened to him or if he bootless to access a aegis cipher every 72 hours, all the files would be automatically appear to analytic journalists in 7 altered countries. But Jonathan had aloof accustomed him article alike, added admired than protection, claimed motivation. It was no best aloof about amends or accomplishing the appropriate thing. Now it was about absorption, adroitness and hope. 2 girls who represented aggregate that was still authentic in this base world. Alexander looked out the cabin window, seeing the lights of the baby boondocks ablaze in the distance. Somewhere out there, 2 little girls slept peacefully, blind that they had aloof become the agitator for one of the bigger exposes of accumulated bribery in American history. He smiled for the aboriginal time in 3 weeks. Jonathan Cain anticipation he was arena chess. But Alexander was about to appearance him that aback you abuse innocent children. The bold changes completely. Each new abasement on amusing